Hey everybody, welcome to the channel where every day is range day. In today's video, we are going to be going over our full review of the Romeo 1 Pro by Sig Sauer. Sig has been releasing some great optics recently, and they've been releasing some optics that have had some mixed feelings. But we're going to get into our thoughts on the Romeo 1 Pro by Sig Sauer. So before we get any further into this video, safety first. This handgun here is clear. To get a few things out of the way, this Romeo 1 Pro was purchased by myself. It was not sent to me by any company, and nobody is expecting a product review out of it or any kind of services. I wanted to purchase it because I was genuinely interested in it and wanted to give you all our thoughts on this product. I bought it last summer and now it's winter, and so I've had it for well over a year. I've had quite a bit of familiarity with this red dot. A few months into my initial testing, I decided that it was suitable for everyday carry, so I went ahead and put it on my everyday carry, which is the Sig 320X Compact, and there will be another video coming in the future where I give you my rundown on this EDC and my thoughts on the 320X Compact, so stay tuned for that. First off, not going to talk about the box that much, but this is the box. Sig Sauer has always done phenomenal with just the presentation of the product packaging, and I'm not going to open the box because everything in it is gone. Everything in it is not supposed to stay in the box. It's supposed to be taken out and used, and we'll talk about how much I actually use it, but we'll go on into what you get when you buy the Romeo 1 Pro. It comes with the optic itself, a stainless steel metal shroud that goes on the outside. If for whatever reason you drop your firearm, it provides a little bit of extra protection, and it can actually work as a sweat guard. If you carry this and it's constantly coming into contact with sweat or rubbing, it can protect the optic more than if you were just carrying it with the optic itself. It comes with a lens cloth, a plastic optic cover, which was completely useless and I never used it, and even when I did use it, it didn't sit on there very well, so it's around here somewhere, but I never use it. It comes with the two screws that you need to mount this optic to the firearm slide. And aside from the optic itself, the most useful thing that comes in the box is this all-in-one red dot tool. It has a larger flathead, which you use to open up the battery compartment on your optic. It also has a smaller flathead there, which you can see, which is actually used to adjust the windage and elevation when you're zeroing your red dot. And I've never used this, but it does have a spare battery compartment, which is very useful because this entire thing is meant to go on the keychain to your car keys. It's a pretty neat and handy tool because you always would have a spare battery with you, and anytime you need to change the battery or make adjustments to your zeroing, you can. One thing to say, from what I can tell, it isn't weatherproof and it isn't waterproof, so beware if you're outside in the elements a lot and you're carrying this around. The cell battery may lose some of its life, some of its charge, and could potentially be damaged by the water. So that's just a small little disclaimer there. Talking about the key features of this optic, it comes standard in a 6 or a 3 MOA dot. I decided to go with the 3 MOA dot. I prefer a smaller dot. A 6 MOA would be fine in situations where you need to be quick. The larger dot's just easier to find. And if you shoot your handgun at closer ranges, it's not going to really make a difference if it's a 3 MOA or 6 MOA. I sometimes like to shoot my pistol out to 50 yards. I prefer the smaller dot for those longer range shots. The optic housing is made out of aluminum. It's aircraft grade aluminum, which means it's probably made out of the same aluminum as your lower receiver on your AR. And the lens is glass, not polymer like the Romeo Zero, which has had some mixed reviews. This is a metal housing and a glass lens which in my opinion is a necessity for a pistol red dot. They advertise a battery life on this with 20,000 hours plus because it uses MOTAC, or their motion activated illumination system. It's very similar to Holosun's Shake Awake, but if you put the optic down and you don't touch it for some time, the dot will turn off, and as soon as you touch that optic, it comes alive. That's very helpful for extending the battery life, and they advertise a battery life of 20,000 plus hours. It's IPX7 waterproof rating, which means it's waterproof at a depth of 1 meter underwater, and it is fog-proof. It's an open reflex emitter red dot, which means the emitter is not covered. I have had no problems with the glass. The glass has not scratched and it is clear. The glass does have a little bit of a blue tint because the outside is shading. That's a double-edged sword because the emitter doesn't need as much power to give it the same sight picture that it would if the glass was clear. Then again, you do lose a little bit of that clarity, which some people really obsess about in a red dot, but to me, doesn't make that much of a difference. A little bit of tinting I've found even useful on really sunny days. The only issues I've had related to the glass and the emitter is just the fact that it is an open emitter. To those who carry a red dot every day, you know this just as much as I do. You will have dust get down into the emitter and on the inside of the glass, and it can kind of create a starburst effect. Getting on into the windage and elevation adjustment, I have some mixed feelings about it. This Romeo 1 Pro has a true hold, as Sig calls it, a locking system in the windage and elevation adjustment. This Romeo 1 Pro has held 0, and I've only had to adjust it once. That adjustment was just because I was moving from a 10-yard 0 to a 25-yard 0, and I wanted to make sure that it was pinpoint at 25 yards as opposed to 10. The true hold locking system works, and all that running, all that shooting, this red dot has kept 0. So very impressed with that. The only thing I don't like about the windage and elevation adjustment is that there are no clicks. Very similar to the Romeo 0, when you're adjusting for windage and elevation, you don't have a click. You essentially just kind of have to gauge how much you're raising it and how much you're lowering it, which there are some markings on the windage and elevation, so if you just pay attention to how much you're changing it, you can kind of get an idea of the click. The MOA adjustments are 1 MOA, and that works out with our math when we've been out there zeroing this red dot. So if you pay attention to the gradations, adjust it by 1 MOA, which is good for a pistol optic. They advertise a 20,000 plus battery rating, but I found that the battery ran out closer to 10,000 hours at full strength. It is likely, if you carry this on a low battery power setting, that it will last closer to that 20,000 hour rating that they advertise. If you carry this, the brightness can be adjusted with these up and down arrows here on the Romeo 1 Pro. That is typical of most red dots, and with exception to the Romeo 0, which has the button all the way up in it, and you can ask Chandler about how much he loves adjusting the brightness on his Romeo 0, as well as most of you all out there who have Romeo 0s. The Romeo 1 Pro is much easier to adjust the brightness with those up and down arrows there. Every day at full power on the emitter, you are looking at closer to 9 or 10,000 hours. I haven't tested the lifetime of this battery out on the lowest setting, so I can't tell you if that 20,000 hour plus rating is applicable, but on full power you will get about 10,000 out of this optic, which is still phenomenal. And if you change the battery out every year like we recommend, you will not have an issue carrying this every day on full power. And Sig can thank that battery life due primarily to their MOTAC system they have on this Romeo 1 Pro. That is an awesome feature on an optic, especially one that you're considering on carrying every day, because it's going to be a hassle if you have to change the battery every 400 or 1200 hours, which are not far off from some of the optics on the market today. Now, getting on into torture testing this, we did not torture test this, and I have no plans to torture test this. We are still in the stage where people do not send us optics or firearms, and if they did, we would consider torture testing them. However, that is not the case. This was purchased with my own money, and I carry this every day, and I want it to survive. The only thing I could say about the durability of this is it has seen normal wear and tear from time on the range and carrying this every day. I opted into putting this steel hood on the optic, and it has saved the optic from maybe a little bit of wear because I carry this and I do a lot of outside work for my job and I get sweaty, and sometimes I don't have an undershirt on. Most of the times I don't when I'm doing field work, and I have seen a little bit of wear on the hood here from just whether it's coating or the paint or whatever that is coming off from exposure to sweat, water, moisture. The optic itself has performed exceptionally well in all those weather conditions. We have shot this in the rain, we have shot it in the sun, we have shot it in all kinds of weather conditions, cold and hot, and it has performed well and held zero. Again, it is an open emitter style red dot, so if you get dirt and dust or even water in there, it could mess up with the laser a little bit and create a starburst effect on your sight picture. That's just something to consider about this style of red dot. So overall, I've been very happy with this optic, and I trust it enough to carry it on my EDC setup. It has performed well in all kinds of weather and held zero, and has not given me any heartache on battery life. Was expecting a little bit more out of that battery life, but I think that just comes down to how they calculated it on the lower power with the amount of time that they were suggesting of 20,000. You're really looking at about half that with a normal battery usage. As far as price, I picked this up for $330. That came with the optic and the hood and everything else that you saw in the package of goodies I got. $330 with all these features gives it a pretty competitive stance when comparing it to other optic companies such as Holosun, Leupold, and even Trijicon. I haven't torture tested it, and I don't think it's been battle tested as far as I'm aware of, but from what I can tell from normal EDC, wear and tear, and time on the range running it hard, it's held up. That's going to do it for this review of the Romeo 1 Pro. It is a very dependable open reflex style red dot for your pistol, which can be considered for an EDC setup. Again, it's not war tested, and for a couple $100 more you can get an optic which has been battle tested, but for normal EDC use and time on the range, this is an excellent red dot, and could even be used as a starter red dot if you're thinking about getting into some of the Trijicons or some of the more expensive ones. This Romeo 1 could be a very good first pistol optic red dot if you're considering on getting into the red dot life. But that's going to do it for today's video. If you like this video, please leave us a thumbs up. And if you have comments on anything you've seen in the video, please drop that in the comment section below and I will get back to you. If you like this kind of content and you want to keep up with the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to be notified for when we release new videos, hit that bell icon and select the preference that works best for you. So again, thank you all for watching. This has been Mac with Range Day, where every day is Range Day. Thanks for watching.
That one did a full flip. I mean, we could do it with like a moving box.
It's in two pieces.
Like a box